All right. Well, Peter, welcome to Drunk Comics.
Hello,
Hi. So, first of all, where are you from?
I am from Delavan. I currently live in near Marshfield in Arpin, Wisconsin. Um, know you from way back when.
Way back when,
Way
middle
back when.
school. Before I was honest with people about how much I like superheroes. So,
Right,
we could have been so much better friends if I had been honest about that
right.
back then. Sadness. So, how did you get into superheroes and comics?
Well, I got into him largely from my dad. He was a big comic book fan when he was a kid, and then about the time of the Lois and Clark show was
Mhm.
on TV, and I liked that, and started getting into comics around that period, and it was Nightfall time period of Batman getting his back broken.
Yep.
Um, and I actually was not a big follower of Batman or any other major superheroes. I was a follower of Robin.
Oh, yep.
Dick,
Which Robin?
Tim Drake specifically.
Nice.
Yep. Um, I had all of his comics up through 1 through 50, and then they disappeared into um, the abyss that is Goodwill on accident.
That's so sad. Oh,
Mm-hmm. Dad
hopefully
got rid of.
went to a happy home where they were loved and
Yeah,
cherished.
I hope.
So, what comic are you going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about Flashpoint series.
Nice.
Um,
AKA how Barry Allen fucked up the DC universe.
yes, it gave us 9 years of the New 52 and all its
Yeah.
subsequent garbage.
Oh my God. Has it been 9 years?
Yes, I was just looking it up in 2011. So,
But
yeah, I
that's,
was trying to see what is like coming out here this year, and because I know I've read a little bit about Doomsday Clock and some of the stuff that was coming out afterwards, and I couldn't really find a whole lot. So that's what you get for not really being up to date too much.
it's hard to follow it when they just have so many books going and then they keep doing the big events and you have
Hmm.
to buy like all the books to follow the events, and it's a big event every 6 months, and it's tiring.
And honestly, the comic book industry is suffering from it. They're spending too much time focused on the big events, the big crossovers, rather than what made comic books great. And that was individual stories, individual heroes. And
Yeah,
that is actually one part that is really nice about Flashpoint is because it focuses on one specific hero, even though all these other heroes are mm, these alternate versions of these heroes are
right.
involved. They're secondary to what Barry is doing and going through.
It's a
And it's
very
really actually,
personal story,
yeah,
but they also have it's a very big sweeping story, but very personal. I think you're right.
yeah.
So, give me a rundown of the story.
So basically, um, Harry,
Harry,
Harry, yeah, Barry
Harry
back in the,
Potter,
yeah,
Harry Potter.
back in the early '80s, in the during the first Crisis event, um, Barry sacrificed himself to save the universe.
Mhm.
Um, and then he was gone for 20, 30 years. And real time and comic book time apparently was only gone for like 10 years. And yeah. Um, so he comes back and he finds out that Eobard Thawne killed his mother. We've known this for decades, but apparently at that point in 2011, Barry only knew it for a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the story is that starts with Thrawn, Thrawn in the future, going through his past and changing it to make himself better. He has a brother, and he doesn't have a brother. Then his parents end up in tragic accidents. His love interest has a boyfriend, and he ends up in tragic accident, disappears, and then she disappears and goes crazy. Thrawn is a completely whacked out character to begin with.
Yeah, he has issues.
Yeah, and then
He has a subscription. He doesn't just have issues. He has a subscription.
he's gone off the deep end to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
Thrawn, Thrawn tries to go back and kill Barry, messing with everybody, and working with the Speed Force. So Barry is back in Central City and has all this family drama with Wally and Bart, Impulse, and Iris, while he's trying to find out who's killing these people by sucking or making them go from like 16 to dead at 90 in a matter of minutes. Like he's trying to figure out who's doing all this, and he thinks it's his alternate reality self that has a motorcycle and is sapping the speed force out of people. Powers motorcycle. It's kind of a weird gimmick, but whatever. It's multiverse.
It's comics. We go with it.
Yeah, and he gets kind of glossing over the prelude part is that he gets Patty's Civet back, and back to Central City to look over the case, and then figures out that Thrawn is actually there, and he's been using the Speed Force to de-age himself and age himself and unlock the secrets of the Speed Force. Powers, and therefore Thrawn is, like we said, insane. And this is all leading up to his mother's birthday, Barry's mother's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And it ties into, well, the alternate Barry warns him of a chronology event, anomaly, timeline event that's going to cause issues. And you see Barry waking up, he doesn't know what's going on, and it's his commanding officer saying is telling him to wake up because they've been doing all these 18-hour cases and caseloads of cold cases and stuff, and Barry's confused and wakes up and things are different.
Mm-hmm.
Captain Cold is the hero of Central City, but he's not Captain Cold. He's Citizen Cold.
Oh, yep.
He's not. He's no longer part of the Rogue Squad gallery. But one of the cases he's working on, it's insinuated that Citizen Cold is actually killing people. So he's not actually really a good guy, but he is a good guy. And this,
He's pretending to be a good guy, but he's still bad to the bone.
he's still cold, regardless of what universe it is. He's still not a good guy. But
Unless you're talking about the CW verse, and then he's a little morally gray. But.
Yeah, this is actually closer to a CW character.
It's okay if we have a guest star doggy. Hey, doggy. Hey, cutie. What's your dog's name?
Cisco.
It is Cisco. I thought that's what you said. That's very fitting. Hi,
Yes.
Cisco. Is
and
that
he's named after Captain Cisco.
Oh, that's so cute. Hey, Cisco, you're so cute.
Yeah, he needs attention constantly. So uh, Barry runs around trying to figure. He doesn't have his powers. He's confused, and then his mom shows up. Laura's been dead for 2 decades at this
Yeah,
point.
like what the fuck?
Yeah, straight up, like he's confused. She's like, "Well, it's my birthday. We go out for dinner on my birthday." He's like, "What the hell? Where did you come from?
Are you a
What is
zombie?
going on?" Yeah, well, that's pretty fitting considering this comes right straight out of Darkest Night too.
Oh yeah. Also, a very good storyline.
Yeah,
The DC Universe version of zombies.
yeah.
I'm gonna convince someone to do that as a drunk comics episode, but that's a total digression.
um, so he's like super confused, and then he starts seeing all these um things that are going on. He's like, "What is going on?" Starts getting memories of the last 20 years or so that are not his memories. His mom's alive, his dad's alive, and he's not in jail. And then he's like confused because his dad's not there. And she's like, "Well, he's had a heart attack 3 years ago. What's
Oh,
going on with you?" And he's like, super confused. Like, I'm pretty sure anybody would be in that situation.
yeah.
And he has no memory of anything. So he's like, the one person that would know what's going on, I need to get to Bruce. So he goes to Gotham.
Because of
He's
course,
my
Bruce
best
does
friend.
everything.
Yeah, of course it's Bruce that he wants to go and talk to because Bruce knows everything, right? And as the story is progressing, you find out this universe is a little bit different than the normal changes. By a little bit, I mean a lot. This universe is on the brink of destruction. A lot of
That's
crazy
just so
shit going on.
good. I mean, yeah, Barry, you get your parents back, but at what cost?
The cost
At
of
what?
everybody's lives.
Yeah, that's
um,
good.
he does before he goes to Gotham though. He does go and try to find Iris, and that doesn't turn out well because she's apparently engaged to somebody else. And talking about, yeah, I'm not exactly sure of the character because I didn't look into it. I'm guessing there's somebody there at the newspaper she works at, and she's talking about going undercover like Lois Lane is in New Thermesica. Right? Yeah, I'm not good at pronunciation. Basically, Wonder Woman's um, raised the UK and taken it over for the Amazonians, while Aquaman has sunk all of Europe
Oh,
and they're at war.
yeah, that sounds pretty dark.
The fact that these two are great friends in the normal universe and this universe are at war and fighting.
Uh,
Yeah,
also, would not want to be caught in the crossfire between those two and
most
their
of the,
armies. Like, no, no, thank
yeah,
you. That sounds
and
terrible.
it's really dark even from the beginning because it's just like millions of people have died from the sinking of um, Europe.
Yeah, go
It
figure.
really, yeah, right. They even have a map of the world, and it shows all of Western Europe is underwater. Eastern Europe, like Poland East, is refugee camps in Russia, and the Nazis have taken over South America, which is weird in and of itself. Not as real big story point, but um, yeah,
Just like randomly, like, oh, yep, there
yep,
are
just
Nazis in this world
there are
and
Nazis
in
in
South
South America.
America. Yeah, okay.
Go figure. Even
And
though the
that's the
story,
least of your problems.
it's pretty sad when Nazis are the least of your problems in the universe.
Right? That's what I'm saying. No, you got to worry about the warring Amazons and Atlanteans,
Yeah.
who aren't the good guys in this universe. That's a bad thing.
So Barry is heading to Gotham, and he doesn't have his speed. He is just a normal person walking around with all of his memories from normal universe, and he's clumsy Barry Allen, not able to do anything,
Oh,
and he's completely confused. But he's hard pressed on getting to Gotham, and gets to Wayne Manor, and it's decrepit, run down, and he goes looking for him, and you find out Bruce that it's not Bruce, it's Thomas Wayne. This is pretty
plot
big,
twist.
yeah, huge plot twist. Because I mean, there's a little bit of a side story before that you find out it's Thomas, that Cyborg is the main character of the story, which he's a he comes out of a cartoon series with Teen
Yeah.
Titans, and now they want to make him a main character. It's like, this is completely out of left field. Don't get it, but they Disney
It's like
want or
the Mean Girls quote, "Stop trying to make Cyborg happen. It's never going to
right.
happen." But they keep,
But
I mean,
they like
I
to
love Cyborg. He's an interesting character, but it's super weird that all of a sudden they've just decided he's a Justice League character. And it's like, why? Oh,
yeah.
I lost you. There you are.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think our internet's kind of wonky sometimes.
it happens. But
Yeah,
it is weird. Like, just all of a sudden, DC just decided. They're like, oh, Cyborg is the seventh member of the Justice League.
yeah. It's
You
like,
can't count this otherwise. And it's like, no, he belongs with the Teen Titans. What are you talking about?
and it's like they didn't. It's not like they didn't have another. If they wanted to fill a black character, not
Jon Stewart.
yeah.
He's
John Stewart is
right there.
John Stewart's there. You have John Henry Irons too. Steel,
Yeah.
great black characters, and they just want to shove Cyborg in and make him a main character. It's like, okay, I guess.
But Cyborg fits so much better with the Teen Titans. Like, it makes no sense.
Yeah, and they have to age him up too in order to put him in with the Justice League. But
Weird.
yeah,
So
this is their introduction to Cyborg as a main storyline character, Justice League character. Yeah,
hey, Cisco,
quiet out
are
there.
you lonely? Hey, doggy. I wish I could pet you.
Cyborg's introduced to the story, and he's trying to build what is essentially the Justice League of Justice League by bringing in Thomas, and you find him trying to find Thomas, trying to find out where the Joker is. And in this universe, um, it wasn't quite part of the story that I was reading because it was just focusing on the main story.
Right.
But eventually, you do find out that the Joker is actually Martha Wayne,
Which is my
and she's
favorite,
gone in. Yeah,
my
it's
favorite
probably
twist.
one of the
Right.
yeah, it's probably one of the best Joker origins that you could have. Is just she's gone insane from the loss of Bruce. Well,
So messed up.
Thomas has gone the opposite direction. It's such a cool dynamic. I think it dropped off.
There you are. It's
Okay.
a cool dynamic, and it's so sad,
Yeah, it is.
heartbreaking.
It's very dark. It's very cool at the same time. It's just like you don't. It's not something you expect. Um, but you see him trying to find where she's at, and he's throwing off one of her minions off off a tower, and Cyborg catches her. You find out really that Thomas Wayne has gone the opposite direction as Batman in being ruthless. He kills. He's very dark. Reading through the end, um, the notes that they were giving on Flashpoint is Thomas Wayne is kind of the Clint Eastwood of this the Flashpoint universe, and it's very fitting um, how he deals with criminals that he's willing to kill in this very dark universe.
Which makes sense. Someone who loses their child, that's
It's
that's
dark.
terrible.
Yeah,
It would screw you up. Your child is murdered before your eyes. That
yeah, and
you either
having
become the Joker or you become Clint Eastwood
um,
style Batman.
yeah, like I empathize with Thomas because we almost lost Addison when he was little, so
Oh,
roughly about the same age as that Bruce is when he's shot is like 6 years old, 8 years old that period.
my gosh.
Yeah, he nearly drowned when he was 6. So it was,
I'm so glad he's okay. That's
yeah.
terrible. Oh my
So
god. I'm sorry.
I emphasize. Yeah, no, you're fine. It's been 10 years since that happened. So, but I emphasize with Thomas and how he feels and how
Yeah.
even Martha to an extent, like this is your child, and for them it's their only child too. They go
Right.
insane, essentially, both of them. And I think it's interesting that Thomas takes on the cowl and becomes Bruce or becomes Batman in this setting. Uh, but he does it as a lone figure, so he doesn't have like Tim Drake and Jason Todd and Dick Grayson there to mentor, to be
Does he have
a
Alfred?
no. That's the other thing.
Because I think Alfred
When
is so important for Bruce
yes,
in those early
he was
years, especially. Because Bruce otherwise could have gone the Thomas Wayne route
yeah
if
very
not
easily.
Alfred.
So Alfred was his anchor, and then then Dick and Todd and Tim were also all of his,
Yeah.
and even later on Damien
Yep.
um, were his anchors and being keeping him from going too far.
Yep.
And
And even
Thomas,
Stephanie and Cassandra and
yeah,
Barbara also, like
mm,
all the Bat family, just kind of definitely it's the people you surround yourself by, and if you don't have anyone
yeah,
and you're going on and fighting that darkness, I mean, granted, okay, so most people aren't going on and fighting darkness, but if you don't have anyone,
yeah.
you're
It doesn't really matter what your darkness is. It could be
that's
just
true.
dealing with mental health, um, or it could be dealing with
Metaphorically.
an outside situation. Either way, having somebody there as a help or an anchor is vastly important, and it really shows with both Martha and Thomas that they don't have those anchors, and
Well said.
it's incredibly um, fitting for the story too, because of how dark it gets. Um, see that you, he Cyborg is basically trying to reform the Justice League, and he has all these side characters, and one of the characters is called the Outsider, and in the notes they were saying that this character was supposed to be Alfred initially, so it's kind of
Ah,
interesting. But they do make him more of a he's Indian, but he's a businessman that really only cares about money. Not really
hmm,
sure exactly what his superpowers are.
interesting.
Yeah, but
Wonder
uh,
if his name is a nod to Batman's team, Batman and the Outsiders.
yeah,
Interesting. Anyways, go on.
No. So Cyborg's getting a bunch of these guys together to really to form this league so that they can fight Arthur and Wonder Woman, Diana,
Which is
and
not the
try
way
and
it should be.
and stop this war from continuing on and destroying everything. But Thomas doesn't want to join him, and this is before he meets Barry. So they're having this conversation. There's like the Enchantress, and this is where they introduce the separation of Billy um, as a group of kids rather than being just Billy as Shazam. And he's Captain Thunder, not Shazam, too. So it's an interesting twist, and one that they keep on for the New 52 and continuing on. Is it's a group of kids that each of them have the different gods as part of their wisdom and there's part of their each one of them having their own part of the whole Shazam uh, character, so to speak. So they,
Interesting.
yeah, then they all have to agree to become Shazam in order to continue to fight. And this is actually a good portion of the storyline going forward too, because they argue on whether they actually want to join in and fight Wonder Woman and um, Arthur. Apparently, there's some kind of issue that Shazam, when he was just when they were together as Shazam, um, Captain Thunder, with Wonder Woman, and he's got a grudge against them, against her specifically.
Huh.
That plays into it later on, but Thomas decides that he doesn't want to join it. After spending all this time like going over the pros and cons of it and all these people wanting to join, Thomas is just like, nah, I'm out, and leaves. So they're all it falls apart in
I
Cyborg's lap.
was
He's just like,
grown.
yeah, he's just like, ugh. And you see him later on talking with the president, which it, he, Cyborg is the only officially recognized superhero of the United States government
Hmm.
and is actually part of the government. Yeah, it's kind of weird. But
It is weird. Part of DC trying really hard to make Cyborg part
relevant.
of their Justice League to pave the way for Cyborg in the New
Yeah,
52. But
yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
my heart still says he belongs in Teen Titans because I love him in Teen Titans, and
yeah, and that storyline, that setting works better for him, in my opinion.
I agree.
But one of the things that Barry is trying to figure out is where all these, um, when he's talking to his mom, he's like, "Where's Superman? Nobody ever heard of Superman." Superman is non-existent in this universe as part of the overall
Hmm.
characters, and you come to find out that the reason why is because his space shuttle doesn't crash in Kansas like it's supposed to, and it crashes in Metropolis and destroys a large portion of the city and kills
Whoops,
several million people. Um,
that's not
so you
good.
find that no, it's not. So Barry's trying to figure out. Batman's the only one that anybody knows of, and so he was looking for him. And he finds Thomas after the whole thing with Cyborg. Thomas almost kills him, just beats the crap out of him while he's because he knows
Poor
Tom,
unpowered Barry.
yeah, poor on powered Barry, and Barry knows how to get into the Batcave, and
He's
this
like,
bat like
I'm your son's friend.
yeah, exactly. He's just I know Bruce, and Thomas is just like beating him like Bruce isn't alive, he's dead. It's a very sad moment, but at the same time, it's very humorous because of how Barry's getting his ass beat by Thomas, but Bruce is dead. So it's like, what's going on here, kind of thing. It's not super humorous, but it's dark humor,
A little funny, yeah.
Yeah, and Thomas ends up breaking his finger, and he's like, "I could have broken your arm and done worse to you." And Barry's just like, "Stop! I got to tell you about it. What's going on." And so Barry figures out that he is that this universe is so fucked up, just straight fucked up. What's going on? And he's like, "I gotta recreate my powers and do all this stuff." And as he's talking to Thomas, because he doesn't have any proof, his ring comes out of nowhere, just falls on the floor. So wherever it was hidden, it's Thomas knocked it loose, or Ron threw it out. And when he goes to activate, he's like, "I can prove it," and it's the Reverse Flash's uniform out of the
Oh,
ring. So he's
whoops.
just like, "What the fuck?" Just sitting there like looking at like, "This is not my uniform." And he's like, "Well, okay."
I'm
So
really
Thomas,
not a bad guy, I swear.
yeah, and Thomas is just like, "Well, okay, so you're not quite as crazy as I thought you were." And then he sits there and goes on top very he goes, "I got to get my powers back. I got to get my powers back." And Thomas is like, "Okay." Still not quite believing him, but he goes through with it, and they set up this electric chair with all the chemicals and stuff, and it's an electric storm going on, and Barry gets fried trying to get his powers back. He just cooks him. He's like 30 or third degree burns over 75% of his body. He's basically is walking, is laying there as a corpse, is barely alive, and Thomas is keeping him. At least Thomas is a medical doctor, so he can keep him alive.
Thomas is like, I don't
Yeah,
believe you, but I'll still play Dr. Frankenstein on you.
pretty
Like,
much.
fun.
Yeah, he's just like, Barry's here. He knows my son. I can at least somehow communicate with my son if this thing is
Let's
real.
do it.
Yeah.
Why the fuck not? Life cannot get any worse at this point.
Pretty much. He's just,
Which is
it
really sad.
really comes, yeah, it's very sad. And Thomas's real driving force to even help Barry is the fact that his son was alive.
Yeah.
That he doesn't even care that he's not alive or that Martha's not alive.
Oh,
He
right.
cares that Bruce survived. No matter what he becomes in um, the DC universe, it's the fact that he's alive that is his driving force through the entire comic, and it's
That's
a really
awesome.
really cool storyline, and one that I'm glad that is in there for the storyline is because it gives. I know a lot of people are bored of Batman when it comes to movies and stuff because he's been overdone to a large extent. But he's really the glue that holds the DC universe
And this
together. And
is a new twist on the Batman story, for
yeah,
sure. It was a
and
really brilliant new twist.
yeah, um, you don't see in every iteration. You basically see Bruce's story, whether it's movies or other Elseworld comics or um, TV shows and stuff. It's really Bruce's story is just constantly done in this. Being that this is Thomas, it makes it really different.
I agree.
Um, and the driving force for him to make go back to a better world, no matter how bad it is and how many bad guys there are and how many crises there always are says a lot how bad this universe is. That there will that he's even just from a personal standpoint, like Thomas wasn't old enough. It wasn't like he was too old that he couldn't have more kids too.
Right. But obviously, you're not going to have kids with your wife who goes off to be the Joker.
Right.
You're not going to be like,
That's right.
"Oh, honey, well, you're criminally insane. Yeah, let's shoot out a couple more kids." And
Yeah.
I
So
mean, I guess he maybe could have found his own version of Catwoman, but it's kind of interesting that he didn't, which yeah.
yeah.
Interestingly, I know you say you didn't read the Doomsday Clock, but
Hmm.
at one point in the Doomsday Clock, I think it was the Doomsday Clock, Thomas, that version of Thomas Wayne got to cross over and interact with the new 52 slash rebirth version of Bruce.
Oh,
And
that's
so
cool.
it was so cool. They got to have a really touching father son moment
Nice.
where Thomas got to give Bruce some father son advice, and it was great. And so that's actually what spurred on. So, where Bruce proposed to Catwoman,
Ah, okay.
they, they didn't end up getting married because comics, can't allow their characters to be happy.
Of course not.
Of course
Then
not.
they don't have
But
anything to drive them.
no, no, you can't be happily married. You have to have pain and more
Yeah.
pain and pain on top of your pain. But so yeah, they had this really touching father son moment. It was super sweet. And one of the things was Thomas being like telling his son, he was like, I really hope you have more to your life than just being Batman. And I really hope you have good people around you. And granted, I don't think you have to have romantic connections. And like we discussed, Bruce has so much more, so many people in his life that keep him on the straight and narrow. But it
Yep.
was cool that after that, that's when he proposed to Catwoman, was after he had that
Right.
conversation with his dad. It was so cool. It was a really super touching moment. It was great. So,
Yeah. And what's really interesting about this comic too, the storyline is that Thomas is a narrator because it's the storyline is focused on Barry, but Thomas is a narrator.
oh,
And yeah, and to kind of touch on that, and it's a little bit later, but in the story, but Thomas does write the letter to Bruce, uh, and reading Rebirth, Bruce has the letter from his dad, which
oh,
leads to that moment with his dad that he he's able to have that connection, even if
oh,
it's not the same Thomas that he grew up with. It's still Thomas. It's
I agree.
still that intimate connection that a father son have. That is very cool. And the fact that they were able to stretch it out over what, a 9 year period and connect those dots is really cool for DC. Even if the rest of their story is not that great, that those connections are what makes this story cool overall.
And that's what
That,
those are the things I love about DC is the family connections.
mhm,
And they really do when they make it all about family, like I was saying, it doesn't have to be about romantic connections. Like
right.
those are interesting too, but romantic connections are not the be all end all. Like the father son connections, the mother daughter connections, the
Mhm,
sibling connections are so interesting. And so
yeah,
yeah, like you said, stretching that out over 9 years where Bruce gets a letter from his dad, from an alternate reality version of his dad, gets to give him a letter, and this alternate reality version of his dad literally sacrificed himself because he's
yeah,
like, you know what? If there's a version of the world where my son lives, that sounds like a better world.
yep.
Let's get back to that.
Yeah, it really shows how selfless Thomas is. No matter how dark and deep he's gotten, he cares more about somebody else than he does himself. And that's kind of the juxtaposition of where Martha is becoming the Joker. She went to the insanity of not caring about anybody and just wanting to see the world burn. She doesn't
Right.
really care that the world is burning. This world literally is burning, or flooding, I guess. But
Right. But, you know,
yeah,
metaphorically
uh,
burning, which
yeah,
is
metaphorically.
interesting because usually mothers are painted as selfless.
Hmm.
And so it's really kind of cool that DC that the story went the other route,
Right.
I think.